What's up, everybody? This is Josh with Free Indeed. This is the channel where we talk about what a Christ-centered biblical recovery process looks like. And today we're going to talk about what submitting means and what biblical submission means and what that looks like as in your life as a part of your process, because we have to submit to something. We're always submitting to something. And this is about understanding why submitting to the process that God wants us to go through is so important. So the reason why this video came up is I was doing some testing at my work. I do IT stuff, and we were getting ready to do some upgrades, to some patch cycles and things like that. So we always have to do testing. And while I'm doing my testing, it's just, stuff that I do all the time. It hit me. I was doing this testing, and I filled out this form, and I hit submit, and then the next screen that came up had all these words on it. It said processing, submit process, action in process, action is getting processed, process is in progress. So when you hit taking this illustration is when you submit to something, to a program, right? Like a 12-step program, there's a process that has to run in order for change to occur. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to take that simple illustration that we all do every day, all the time, when we're on our phones or on our computers, or we're trying to update our email addresses or our phone numbers or whatever it is. If you're trying to make changes through a computer program or on a platform or through a website or whatever, and you hit that submit button, there is a sequence of things that have to happen in order for that change to occur. There's required fields that have to be filled in, and there's all these things that we can take and we can apply it to our own recovery process. And it's so cool how this works. But the main important thing is to make sure that this lines up with biblical principles. So I did a little bit of digging, and I found that in James 4, this is exactly what this talks about. So James 4, 1 through 10 on page 1605 says this: what is causing quarrels and fights among you? I know in my recovery, especially right before I got sober, there was lots of quarreling and fights. Don't they come from the evil desires at war within you? You want what you don't have, so you scheme and kill to get it. You're jealous of what others have, but you can't get it. So you fight and wage war to take it away from them. Yet you don't have what you want because you don't ask God for it. And even when you ask, you don't get it because your motives are all wrong. You want only what will give you pleasure. I know for me, my addiction was alcohol and drugs, and it was also that feel. It was just like I was just addicted to what made me feel good, so I didn't have to feel all the other crap. So, verse 4 says, you adulterers, don't you realize that friendship with the world makes you an enemy of God? I say it again, if you want to be a friend of the world, you make yourself an enemy of God. Do you think the scriptures have no meaning? They say that God is passionate, that the spirit he has placed within us should be faithful to him, and he gives grace generously. As the scriptures say, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. So humble yourselves before God. Okay, in this translation, it says humble yourself before God. In most other translations, it says submit yourself to God, or submit yourself before God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Come close to God, and he will come close to you. Wash your hands, you sinners. Purify your hearts. There's the process. For your loyalty is divided between God and the world. Let there be tears for what you have done. Let there be sorrow and deep grief. We've talked about how a sad face can make your life happy by going to those places and doing those things. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Let there be sadness instead of laughter and gloom instead of joy. Humble yourselves, submit yourselves to the Lord, and he will lift you up in honor. So we're going to be talking about what all that means. I know that was kind of a lot there, but if we look at what the Greek word for submit means, it's a compound word. First word in that is hypo, which means under or placed below. Okay, think of like a submarine for submission, submarine under the water. And then the second word is tasso, which means appointed, ordained, or assigned a place. So when you think about the word submit, don't think about it like, oh, I have to give up something, or I'm lowering myself. No. What you're doing is you're saying, I am humbly receiving the assigned place that God has put me under. That changes the whole dynamic of it, right? So then when we start talking about thinking about this illustration about the submit button on an online form, it's like, okay, great. You hear me say a lot in group and maybe on here that what do you want to change? What is your desired outcome? So when you think about the online form, it's like, let's just use changing your address. So if you want to update your address, the desired outcome is you want to take it from your old address, and the outcome you want is to change it to your new address. Well, in order to do that, you have to A, have a new address, and you have to B, enter it in the right field, right? Then you have to go through you have to submit it to the process, and then there's something that happens out of your control that actually makes the change happen. Think about that. When you hit the submit button on these forms, there's a whole bunch of stuff that happens behind the scenes that you can't see and that you literally have no control over, but that you have to have in order for the change to happen. So this is that submission to God. God, when you submit to God, there are so many things that happen outside of your realm of control. And we know that through the 12 steps, that this is a process where submission leads to change, because that process you don't control. You're not the one doing it. And this is so cool. Okay, so we kind of talked about that a little bit, about the illustration. Now I'm going to give you 3 tips to submit, because submitting can be a little difficult. The first one is prayer, right? James talks about that. Proverbs talks about that. Ask God how to get closer to him. Ask God what you need to change. What program or what are you submitting to? What's the desired outcome? So there's 2 different prayers you could ask there. What's the program, right? Make sure that God is the one that you're submitting to, and then ask him, what are the changes that you want to make? Because you can change. There's a billion different things you can change, right? When you submit those forms on the online stuff, there's all kinds of different stuff that you could be submitting to. So what is the desired outcome, and who are you submitting to? The second tip is preparation. What are the required fields before you hit the submit button? This could be a lot of different things in your life. If you're wanting to just change sobriety, right? There's going to be a lot of different things that you're going to have required before you submit to the process, right? The first one is actually being sober, right? The second one is going to be you need a safe place to do this, right? The third place is you need a recovery group or sponsor or faith-based group of people to surround you and to support you. And that could be just 1 or 2 people, but get the support you need, okay? So this example kind of speaks for itself, but there's required fields before submitting. The last tip is learn what humility means as a verb, okay? Humility means understanding who you are accurately. So you need to understand what the required fields are in your own life and if you have those before you submit. Because you can't submit a form that has either empty fields or incorrect fields, or what is it going to do? It's going to error out and it's going to spit it back at you and say, those changes can't be applied, okay? So we have to learn how to pray and ask God what you're submitting to and what the desired outcome is. We have to prepare the required fields, and we have to humbly ask God to help us understand what the fields are so we can properly submit the form to change and the process that this recovery program is all about. So hopefully that was helpful. I hope that was helpful to you. Kind of a lot of information, but a pretty simple thing to deal with. And I hope that you can take that and apply it to your life and to your recovery. Feel free to like, subscribe, share, do all that stuff, YouTube, Facebook, all that kinds of stuff. And time zone meeting locations are going to be in the description below. And we will see you later.